let's jump back to Belfast because I want to cover a couple of things before we get onto the questions because they're in lots of random different areas. I want to kind of move forward then to the next thing after that election. Suddenly, flag protests. So this is the big flag debate in City Hall, which I'm sure is one of your favourite subjects to talk about. It was probably the first piece of Northern Irish politics that I ever noticed as a child, which is what an introduction, I suppose. When
Right.
Alliance, and you were clearly, at least in some way, involved as being deputy leader, when Alliance planned and voted that motion, which was in effect, it restricted the number of days that the Union flag could fly down to 18. Did you have any idea of what was coming?
We knew it wouldn't be popular, so I mean, there's no question of that. But you've got to look at it in context. So we'd had a similar vote about 2 years after I was elected. So about 2003, I think that we had a vote on this, and we had voted for. It was voted through committee, and just to explain briefly, things were decided in committee. They then come to the council for ratification, and if your amendment falls, then they go as they stand. So it was voted in committee. There was a majority of unionists in committee. They said the flag would stay 365. It was brought to council. Sinn Féin proposed the flag be removed completely. They then proposed two flags on the building. That was voted down fairly substantially. And we proposed in principle that it should be flown on designated days. And 4 people voted for that, 3 Alliance councillors and Billy Hutchinson from the PUP, and everyone else voted against, so it didn't happen. So I'd been through the whole turmoil of this before. And when it came round again, the numbers in City Hall had changed. So the committee that was in charge actually had a Sinn Féin majority. So the decision that came to council was there would be no flag on City Hall. And unless that was amended, that's what would happen. So we didn't actually expect that our amendment would be supported, because we expected that Sinn Féin would go for the default position, which was that the flag in the committee would not fly. We weren't going to support that. Unionists weren't going to support that. And because we held the balance of power, there would just be no decision on the flag at all.
Why wouldn't you have supported it?
Well, because I don't believe that it is right that we would have no flag flying on City Hall. I think we have to, if we're serious about the Good Friday Agreement, we have to accept what that means in constitutional terms, and it means that Northern Ireland is part of the UK. I think that means that we have to be willing to respect the normal protocols that go along with that.
But the flag being up or down wouldn't change the constitutional position.
It doesn't change the constitution, but it's an expression. It's an expression.
That Alliance, as a constitutionally neutral party, could easily have stood over there not being a flag at all.
Well, we could have, but we looked, first of all, at the equality impact assessment, and we looked at the legal opinion as to what was legally defensible. And it was very clear to us from the equality impact assessment and the legal assessment that the right decision actually was to say designated days. And I think it's really important, and we've seen this before, you know, where unionists are in control of a council, the flag flies on everything from the local dump right through to every civic building, and it's abused in many cases. And when you go then to nationalist councils, the flag doesn't fly at all. And so if you are a unionist, if you're a minority in either of those councils, your views are not respected. And I think it's really important that we do respect it. And sovereignty, the flag and sovereignty do have a link. And so for me, it isn't about flying the flag to annoy people, but it's about flying the flag in a way that is respectful and reflects how it's flown in the rest of the UK. So I think it should be flown on the main public building, so the main council building only. It should be flown there on designated days as prescribed in UK legislation. Same as we do at the Assembly, which actually was agreed recently with no fuss at all. But there were reasons why there was a huge outcry about it.
So then, I mean, what followed now was weeks of protests and riots, the remnants of which would carry on for a year and beyond. During that time, you, other Alliance Party representatives, sent death threats. We've talked about bullets, houses, offices attacked, cars burnt, petrol bombs attacking police officers, the whole thing. I wonder then, in the context of what you've just said, did you feel that, because what you've just described is in some way there was an option, which was no flag, and Alliance intervened to ensure that there would be a flag on 18, however many days it is. Did you then feel that you were the wrong people to be criticised on the basis that it was because of your motion that the flag would fly at all?
Well, I think that bit completely eluded most unionists, and there's a good reason for that, because unionist parties were aggrieved that I had won the seat. The DUP were annoyed that I had taken the seat from Peter Robinson, and so they instigated quite a vicious leaflet campaign. Over 40,000 leaflets were circulated. They whipped up a lot of fear and tension. They highlighted the fact that the Alliance had torn it down. Actually, without the support of Sinn Féin and the SDLP for the flag flying on designated days, the flag would either not have been there at all, which is the most likely outcome if we had gone down the no flag route, or it would have continued to fly 365 and a legal case would have been taken because there was one pending, and the legal advice was it would have to be reduced either to 0 or designated days.
So the same loyalists that they would then over a number of years issue with death threats and things, they could actually thank you that the flag was there at all.
Well, I've never expected, I've never expected thanks but yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been there had it not been for Alliance putting the position forward. And what I actually expected a little bit was a pushback in Republican neighbourhoods, because Sinn Féin for the first time voted in favour of the Union flag flying anywhere. And that was completely lost in the hysteria around the fact that we would only fly the flag on designated days. And that to me was bewildering, because I actually thought, and they thought, in fairness, that they would have a really hard sell in their own constituency. But the thing became so hyped up around unionism and the flag not flying 365 that Sinn Féin walked away from that unscathed, despite the fact that actually, to some degree, it was a victory for unionism, because it was the first time Sinn Féin had ever really acknowledged physically sovereignty of the UK in Northern Ireland in the form of the flag.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, I wonder, during that period of time, you had security for some of that time as well,
Yeah.
as I understand. Was that a scary number of months? Did you ever really feel like, you know, your life was in danger, or is there a kind of, you know, distance that's applied to those kind of things?
No, I felt it was definitely dangerous. I mean, my car was attacked while I was in it. We had missiles thrown at us. My office was burned twice. You know, it was an uncomfortable time. There's no question about that. It's never nice to get death threats at all, but you know, when the police turn up at your door in the middle of the night and basically tell you that if you stay in your own home or you go to your place of work, you'll be shot, it's not a comfortable thing to hear. And it was a fairly unpleasant time, I think, for all of us. There was, though, within the party, and despite all of the pressure, and some people really, you know, were put through hell. Their houses were attacked, and also, I mean, it was just every day in the news there was something else. There was a real sense of, that people pulled together in the party. So although it was a time when we were under attack from outside, the sense of team, the sense of us being like a family who were really pulled together, was really strong. And I think that's one of the things that kind of kept us going during that period, because we had that sense that we were in it together, that we had done the right thing, and that we just kept going. So, you know, despite the fact that there were threats out there, I continued to hold surgeries, even though the police had to come and sit outside them to make sure that, you know, that things were safe. I continued to go out and canvass, even though we had to have plainclothes police kind of following us around and observing us canvassing and so on. But it was just really important to me that I didn't allow the people who wanted to disrupt my representation to be able to do that. It was challenging, but I mean, I think it was important, and we knew it was going to be difficult. But I think it's really important as a politician that just because there's going to be difficult fallout and consequences for you personally, that you don't let that colour your vision in terms of what decisions you take, because otherwise then you're open to any kind of influence, and it's no longer about principles, it's just simply about pleasing yourself.